There's this electricity about his playing that just is infused in everything, the spirit that's infused in everything he does.
Well, that is so Dylan influenced.
He's not limited by being just a guitar player.
This intro is in freaking sane.
It's more like an attitude to carry with whatever you do.
You feel exactly what he's feeling.
I think that's what's missing a lot of music, because a lot of music written today is get your block, you get your beat, get your chord progression, then sing over the top of that.
Picture yourself on a boat in a river.
The tide is higher than usual.
Welcome back to Professional Musicians React.
I am so excited about today. We have an awesome day.
We're going to be talking about two Jimmy songs, Castles Made of Sand and Power to Love. With us, on my left, the man, the myth, the legend, Lyle Workman. Lyle, you are a guitarist, a composer, a producer. We were talking about this over lunch. You have done kind of the most fun touring of all time. You've toured with Beck and Sting and Todd Rundgren. You've written music for box office blockbusters that have earned over $1 billion worldwide, including Superbad, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Get Him to the Greek, and Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Your solo music has garnered praise from guitar heroes like Steve Vai and Steve Lukather, all the Steves. And you have a record that you just put out last year that you did with a 63-piece orchestra at Abbey Road that's insane. Your playing sounds insane on it. The arrangements are insane. I'm so happy to have you here doing this.
Thanks. I'm very honored to be here.
We also got Harrison Whitford here. Harrison is an amazing guitarist, has played with Phoebe Bridgers and many others, and just released a solo record, right? Afraid of Nothing, which came out last November.
On the mic over there, on the table, is Tim Sonnenfeld, Grammy Award-winning producer, engineer, multi-instrumentalist, and arranger. Pomplamoose, Usher, Rancid, Elvis Costello. So happy to have you here, Tim.
So glad to be here, y'all.
Let's kick it off with a song that you've been listening to recently that has a cool guitar part or guitar sound in it.
There's a Ry Cooder song that it's really almost the first 30 seconds of it that I love. It's called Baby Join the Army.
The first thing that popped in my head was that song, There She Goes by The Lost.
What do you got for us, Ry?
It's an Andrew Bird song called Chemical Switches.
I keep hearing a vicious rumor.
Jack, what do you got?
Tamir Barzilay, Home is Not a Place. Let's do it. Jimi Hendrix, let's jump into our first song, Castles Made of Sand. Tim, tell us a little bit about this song.
This is a track recorded by the Jimi Hendrix Experience for their legendary album, Axis Bold as Love. It's one of Hendrix's most personal songs, and it's claimed to be about his childhood. The track is known for its signature overdubbed backwards guitar solo. It was mixed at London's renowned Olympic Sound Studios. Some key personnel on this recording include Chaz Chandler, who was Jimmy's manager, produced it, engineered by Eddie Kramer, Noel Redding on bass, and drums by Mitch Mitchell.
Beautiful. Let's listen to it. This is Jimi Hendrix, Castles Made of Sand.
Down the street, you can hear her scream, you're a disgrace. And she slams the door in his drunken face. And now he stands outside, and all the neighbors start to gossip and drool. He cries, oh girl, you must be mad. What happened to the sweet love you and me had? Against the door he leans and starts a scene, and his tears fall and burn a garden green. And so castles made of sand fall in the sea eventually.
Interesting to note, no click track.
You're kidding.
Are we sure?
I mean, from that first verse, or from the first verse to chorus to the last chorus.
Castles made of sand melts into the sea eventually.
That probably was, I don't know, 20
Oh,
BPMs
yeah.
faster.
It really is completely warbling time.
There was a young girl whose heart was a frown, 'cause she was crippled for life, but she couldn't speak a sound, and she wished and prayed she could stop living.
Yeah.
It becomes like part of the dynamic.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, but even during the time areas, you know.
Yes.
We get so used to the ice pick, you know, in popular music, but
The
no one
ice
complained
pick.
about it back in the day.
Yep.
How stuff would just
They're
kind of
just following Jimmy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
They're chasing him the whole time.
I feel like before we even dive into the specifics of this song, I wonder if you guys could just give us context of where music was at before Jimmy. You know what I mean? To put us in the mindset of where the world was when Jimmy stepped on the scene.
Yeah, that's really important for any music to consider what was happening at the time it was composed or written. It's even more mind-blowing when you think about that.
Yeah.
In the case of Jimi Hendrix, late 60s. So just think of the other bands that were around at the time, the popular bands, Jefferson Airplane and psychedelic rock, right? Bob Dylan, the Beatles. Everybody had their own world, it was real separate worlds. Not a whole lot of common denominator between any two of them. If you think about it, like who sounded like someone else? Like, oh, that just sounds like. That wasn't a part of the scene back then. It was just kind of a cultural explosion, just with everything and. San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury, and hippies and whatever, flower power and bra burning, and the whole scene was just a cultural explosion coming from young people.
There's just like 5 things. The whole song. It's that reverse guitar thing that happens in the left speaker. There's the beautiful rhythm guitar playing on the right, or lead guitar playing, or combination thereof, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's the drums and the bass and the vocals. And that's like the whole song.
Okay, I think we should do an experiment because we were kind of talking about how intricate this part is. This is one of the most iconic guitar parts of all time. I think we should each play it separately.
Okay.
Yes.
And hear
How you play it.
just the
Differences?
just the
Yeah, just the verse part,
just the verse part or whatever.
Lyle, kick us off.
Okay, here you go.
What do you got, Rye?
That's the most accurate, closest.
I feel like it'd be very hard to notate that or write
Yeah.
that out because there's so many little ghost jiggles and
Yeah,
jaggles and
I feel like
things.
part of that music is like playing it your own way too,
Yes.
because it's already. I feel like the other thing about all those Hendrix tunes is like when you were saying there's not that many things. There's like 4 or 5 things, but there's always like this other thing that's
Yeah.
not there.
There's
You know
this
what I mean? There's this
electricity
just-
about his
Yeah.
playing that just is infused in everything.
Totally.
The spirit that's infused in
What is
everything he
that?
does.
What? I mean, if you had to actually break it down, what actually is it?
No, I mean
It's very flowy, and it's
Yeah.
not constructed in blocks. Like if at the very beginning of it, it starts on the pickup note. It doesn't start on 1. It's 4 and 1. So it starts on it, and then where he puts the breaks within the bar, it's really confusing.
Yeah.
You have to really listen. Like, oh, okay.
I don't know where he's putting one, honestly,
Yeah,
many
ever.
times.
Yeah,
many
totally.
times in that song. Yeah. Because I think I sort of always just heard, since I've been hearing the song since before I knew music. You know what I mean? I always heard this as
Yeah.
one.
1. So it's the
Yeah,
one. As soon as
totally.
when you go from the A, it's
Right.
1. 1. Yeah.
But there's so many Jimmy-isms. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? He does it later on in the song. There's all these little,
Yes, double stops, a little pull-offs. Yeah. It's a Curtis Mayfield kind of
Yeah.
approach to it.
yeah, he sort of synthesized everything that came before him and exploded it in his own colors.
Yeah, and like kind of even the rhythm guitar playing he was doing for other people. Like it's like he just took that to this whole other like planet, you know.
Yeah.
So if he were to play it, he would probably not ever play it the same way.
Right,
twice. I mean, each chorus is completely
Is different.
I mean, it's it's variations on the basic theme. So those pull-offs and the it's a very natural and flowing
Yeah.
thing that you have to sort of practice it in order to get what it is.
Yeah.
But then it just sounds worked out.
Yeah.
Where when he does it, it doesn't sound worked out. You know,
Totally.
it's that really off the cuff.
But he also,
Just-
I feel like, just always saw, like, from a recording perspective, the whole picture too. Like, even for in his time doing reverse solos or whatever at that time, and
Yeah.
you know, knowing he's recording the solo at like the top of the dynamics. He's all the way up here on the neck whenever he's recording it, you knowing like when he turns it around, he wants it to be that way.
Yeah.
Sure.
Where it's just like there's a combination of so much like attitude and abandon, but also like so intentional. And
The thing that I think sets Jimmy apart from almost every other guitar player in history is that I don't know if I can think of one that's more of a complete package. Like, not only is he one of the most greatest and revolutionary guitar players of all time, as a lyricist, as a singer, as a producer, as just like he's a true artist
totally.
in every sense of the word.
Yeah,
you know,
he's not limited by being just a guitar player. Which that's what I was saying before. Is I feel like you could spend so much time analyzing like any one element of his music.
Right.
Where like you've seen sort of culture just take the guitar component of it and just run with it. I feel like for rock music too, especially at that time, like, you know, you can tell his ear was like very much on Dylan records.
Yes.
And sort of unique at the time to be combining that sort of, you know, really blistering guitar, but beautiful guitar thing, like with, you know, poetic imagery and just unique in that way. And yeah, singing not like this scorching lead rock singer, you know, just
Right.
Yeah.
more understated.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Listen to his, like, the inflection of his voice here.
Street, you can hear her scream, you're a disgrace. And she slams the door in his drunken face. And now he stands outside, and all the neighbors start to gossip and drool.
Like, that is so Dylan influenced. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
so much Dylan in that.
From what I understand, he was like very, very self-conscious of his voice. And
Yeah,
I think
like-
Dylan was one of the first people he heard that
Now that's a singer.
that made him feel like I can sing. He was
Yeah.
like, you know, like he did.
He can.
But you think about Dylan, you think about like there's zero apology in Dylan's voice.
Yeah.
And that makes it listenable because it's just like there's so much attitude. I think
Great. I love it.
yeah.
I think
me
the
too.
irony too was, especially those early Dylan records, his voice sounded amazing,
Incredible.
Like people
yeah.
think of Dylan as
No, but he has
not
so
being
much
able
control.
to sing,
lately delayed.
right? Because later on, I feel like he fucked up his own voice.
Yeah. But
You know
he
what I
had
mean?
so much control.
He had so much control
But it
and
was like-
tone and
yeah.
intention. But yeah, you're right. He expanded people's minds as far as what you were allowed to sound like as a singer on the
Totally.
radio.
Totally.
You know, you didn't have to sound like Elvis.
You know, maybe if it's poetry, it could be partially talked. You know,
Yeah, totally.
expressed as a not.
Do you think the day and age of the singer-songwriter type who doesn't have this kind of American Idol voice, has the era changed, or are we coming back around to that, do you think, eventually?
I feel like usually people will respond to interesting songs and good songwriting regardless of the voice, kind of. Like, I feel like if the song has legs and is compelling, however the singer sounds, like almost doesn't matter. You know, it's like because it's such an interesting conversation because you can delve into singers that are incredible singers, like Nina Simone.
Ain't got no schooling, ain't got no friends, ain't got no nothing.
Nina Simone's voice is like so full of emotion and intensity. And my point being, like, there's that David Byrne thing. It's like part of Stop Making Sense where he's like, oh, if you're not a great singer, people believe the words you're saying more, which is kind of an interesting thought, you know?
1,000%.
I love that, you know, or just that the words could carry as much weight as, you know, that the words should be saying as though they carry weight rather than just, you know,
Yeah, like
singing without any meaning.
it makes you ask, what is a great singer? I mean, like a great singer makes you gets the song across.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Can we take it back to this song for a second and talk about this particular recording? I guess a key thing about this is the refrain, the chorus, if
Yeah.
you will, like comes down completely and
Yeah.
disappears and is this moment of space, right?
Like the ocean washing away a castle made of sand.
Oh, wow. Taking it all the
one.
way, Ryan. Here we go.
And so castles made of sand fall in the sea eventually.
So crazy.
Little Indian
What's so crazy about that?
His choices of what he plays and the freedom in which it's executed. It's just not stock. Curtis Mayfield had that in his playing, but I can't think of other examples where it's just so free and flowing, and it really sounds like it just, again, he'll never play it the same way twice.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I feel like too, it's another thing that always connects my favorite musicians or singers or whatever is this sound where it feels like it's always going to come off the rails, but it never does.
Yeah, that's right. It's a high wire.
It always
Yeah.
sounds like it's going
Yeah.
to, you know?
And it's so catchy at the same time.
Yeah. It's,
Yes.
So it's innovative, it's catchy, it's melodic, it's very unique, it's very distinctive. It's kind of has everything wrapped up in that little area.
My brain naturally goes to blocks of 4, right? When I'm writing, I think a lot of people's brains do, right? We write in these like discrete, repetitive chunks that are mechanized, and this is anything but like blocks of 4, or at least it doesn't feel like blocks of 4
Exactly.
when it comes out. When I deliberately try to do that in my writing, I found that like I end up applying it to too many things. Oh, let me fuck up the harmony. Oh, let me fuck up the playing. Oh, let me fuck up the timing. Oh, let me fuck up the lyrics. And then sooner rather than later, everything is weird and there's kind of nothing to like grab onto and ground you. And what's so interesting about this is its lack of blocks of 4, but it's so catchy.
Yeah.
The guitar playing is so bluesy and grounded in tradition, right? It just makes sense and feels good at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that's what's so like weird about it.
The neighbors gossip and drool. There's a bar too there.
and all the neighbors start to gossip and drool.
So it's that kind of that Burt Bacharach thing where the chords are following the melody.
Yes.
So did he do it guitar first, or did he do it with the neighbors gossiping?
He has something to
Gossiping
say,
drool.
so the music's got to
You
be
know what
adjusted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the music following the cadence of the lyrics. I think that's what's missing a lot of music, because a lot of music written today is get your block, you get your beat, get your chord progression, then sing over the top of that. So you're sort of married to whatever
Backing
that
track.
foundation
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But the Burt Bacharach thing, I mean, we should do a show on him. you know,
Oh, yeah.
'cause that's a whole
Yeah.
another thing.
The other thing that's so cool about this recording is the band is an augmentation of the guitar playing.
Yeah, totally.
Like his guitar playing is so busy that if you listen to what the bass is doing, it's literally what his thumb is doing over, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Boom, boom. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just
Over
kind
the
of
chords.
Exactly. And what the drummer is doing, if you listen to his guitar playing before the drums come in, it sounds like Mitch Mitchell.
Down the street, you can hear her scream, you're a disgrace. And she slams the door.
Let's move on to the next song.
Okay, we could talk about Axis Bold as Love forever.
Yeah.
The next song is Power to Love, Band of Gypsies, Jimi Hendrix. Tim, tell us about this song.
Jimi Hendrix's Power to Love. This is from the live album Band of Gypsies, which was the first album without his original group, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, a group he had played with from 1966 to 1969. The group had disbanded after the bassist Noel Redding quit after a show in Denver. Apparently, the last straw was when he heard Jimmy was going to enlarge the band without telling Noel or Mitch. The track was recorded live at the Fillmore East on New Year's Day, 1970, and was the last full-length album released before his death. Also known as Power of Soul, it was composed by Jimmy and was produced by him as well as under the name Heaven Research. Billy Cox is on bass and Buddy Miles is on drums.
Here it
we
is.
go.
Power to Love.
I'm so glad you suggested we do these two songs because it's so cool to hear kind of early-ish Jimi. Jimi Hendrix's whole career was, what, 7 years? And this is kind of like you were saying at lunch.
it felt. I always thought like the Band of Gypsies thing seemed like he was figuring something else out, and I don't know if the Band of Gypsies was maybe the start of a bigger vision of something, but which is always kind of it's heartbreaking because you're like, I would have loved to have seen
27 years old.
what other
when
music he
died.
would have come up with.
This feels more like a jazz trio playing
Totally,
rock.
totally, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, it's a different element of Hendrix. For me, it's just that. Okay, well, let's just focus in on his lead guitar playing for a minute. All the interest for me is in that first minute of the song. The intro, and then when the band kicks in.
Yeah.
That opening solo, it's like,
Oh my
And then,
God,
and then
man.
even
Yeah.
then, the like solo is like such a free expression.
Yeah.
It's just so like there's
unbridled.
It's like,
completely
that one side of the brain just kind of doing what it
Yeah.
does best. That's why I wanted to pick this one. Something live.
It's interesting too in the conversation of like the millions of people who've tried to do that thing, because it's like when you listen to the first minute of that, it's like to sit and try and play that. It's not really.
It's
not even about that.
untranscribable.
Yeah, it's just it's such a. If anything, it's like it's more like an attitude to carry with whatever you do.
Yes.
with whatever thing you make
That's such a good
or
point.
play.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh, I'm going to go and just do that. It's like the point is what's underneath all of that.
Obviously, the wah gives it performance and makes it sound like talking. But beyond the wah, beyond the vocal similarities of the playing, it sounds so human. It sounds like screaming and suffering. It sounds like dying animals.
Yeah.
It gives me a physical feeling of like anxiety and
Yeah,
tension in like like I'm being chased. It like triggers fight or flight mode.
You feel exactly what he's feeling.
Yes.
He's just
Exactly.
like, he's doing the best job just blasting out his
feeling.
who he was
Yes,
and what he was
totally.
feeling
Yes.
through his instrument. And it's so
lesson in-
pure. Like,
Yeah.
it's so authentic. There's not 1 second where you feel like he's phoning it in or faking it or not being true to himself. That's such a rare thing.
The song Machine Gun, you talk about expressing a feeling. He's about the war in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And his guitar sounds like a machine gun at times. He hits a note that sounds like a freaking air siren. It just holds onto the note.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go anywhere. That's another, just a great explanation or expression of his ability to channel whatever he was channeling.
Totally. And that
to
goes
the
back to
guitar.
what you were talking about with context too, where like even a song like Power to Love, it's like
Right.
there's like a political connotation to maybe saying something like that during that time where it's not like new agey, it's like protest in the face of war.
Yeah.
The music was serving a purpose.
Yeah, it was serving a purpose, and it wasn't the purpose. And again, going back to like maybe where the focus has often drifted to with his playing, is like the purpose wasn't to just like pick up a guitar and just blow. It was
Yeah.
like, it's like a
There's no
political,
ego.
creative.
It's like a tool.
expression.
It was just a tool for him
Yeah.
to get his music out. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, he's a guitar player, obviously,
express his
but it was
ideas.
his tool.
You were started to tell us this story about that Bill Graham told you.
Oh, yeah. 2 nights. It was the 31st of December and January 1st. And on the 31st show, both days at the Fillmore in New York, Hendrix was doing his more showman-y, playing guitar with his teeth and humping the guitar and, bending over backwards. And after the show, Hendrix walked up to Bill and said, "What'd you think?" I guess Hendrix and Bill
Graham's
says,
a promoter.
Bill Graham was the promoter. So Hendrix says, "What do you think of the show, Bill?" And Bill says, "It's okay." Jimmy goes, "Well, what do you mean okay?" He goes, "Well, you made love to the guitar, you played with your teeth, you did everything, but just play the guitar." And Hendrix like stormed off. And then the next night, which is where we get Machine Gun and Power to Love, he just stood in one place and played the guitar. Just didn't do anything, but just was in the zone.
Let's take it back and listen to this intro again, because this intro is in freaking sane, and I think it merits a second closer listen.
range. His vibrato is so perfect too.
Is he using? It sounds like he's using a whammy bar.
He
Is he
is,
using a whammy
yeah.
bar?
Not
Yeah.
for, yeah, but
all those.
Is the vibrato?
Yeah.
So wait, what's
But
this
the-
part?
Yeah.
That's the whammy bar.
Yeah.
right?
Whammy bar, yeah.
Can you show us, since you have one right here?
He goes all the way down
if
while
you bend right, if you bend
Oh, so-
up with that, and then you're
push
coming
down
down
that,
with
and then
this
come
finger.
down to-
Yeah.
So he's coming. It's okay. So he's releasing tension on the string while doing the whammy
Yes.
bar on the way down.
Yeah.
When you guys play that kind of stuff, are you thinking about that, or are you just expressing through the guitar? Do you know what I mean? Like, are you thinking about the mechanics of the playing, or are those things
you
part
can't
of your
think.
fingers now?
No, it's really this. It's all about feeling.
Yeah.
It's 100% feeling, no thinking.
Yeah.
And with things like that too, though, it's like driving, where it's like you know it. You know what I mean? It's just like you don't have to think about driving.
Yeah.
You know, it's like becomes
Right.
just
It's part of your.
muscle memory stuff.
Right.
You know.
So is this the
this-
guitar he's using
Yeah.
basically?
Yeah.
Okay, he's
Yeah.
using a Strat.
So at that time, his guitars were maybe brand new,
Yeah.
and this would have been one of them. So
What year is that Strat?
Well, this is it's designed after a '68.
So he would have had a five-way switch there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each of those
So
positions.
this is 5-way. You can this closest to the neck would be just this neck pickup.
And that's what he switches to for. Oh no, he switches to the bridge pickup for that.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then this gives you position. Next position gives you these two.
And what does that sound like?
It's a little bit more hollow sounding.
Okay.
And then this would middle position gives you
Just the middle pickup.
That's like more surfy.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then this gives you these two, which is very popular rhythm.
Yeah.
Funk.
Yeah.
used to-
Yeah.
a lot of-
Pop. It's got that pop kind of
Yeah.
sound to it. Uh-huh.
And then this is
So that's what he uses for.
Yeah.
He's just biting
Straight into the
cutting-
forehead.
Yes.
Yeah. So back
Straight into the
back
forehead.
the earlier guitars, you'd have this was your rhythm pickup, and this was your lead pickup. And so you kind of hear Jimmy taking advantage of the lead portion of that.
that was kind of a surf guitar, right? Would you say?
Totally, the Strat?
in the certainly in the mid '60s.
Yeah.
This was your Dick Dale. That was used for that kind of thing.
Right.
But for rock and roll or rock or whatever you want to call it,
It was like an unusual choice
was an
when
unusual choice,
when
yeah.
Jimmy started playing it.
Yeah.
And then after Jimmy.
after Jimmy,
Yeah.
of course, Richie Blackmore and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Deep
and
Purple
Clapton started playing a Strat
Yeah, I mean,
because
Yeah.
he made the Strat what it
Strat.
is, you know?
yeah,
He
exactly.
really did.
That's everyone picked it up
Because
because
Strats before it was like Buddy Holly and stuff.
Buddy
like
Holly,
that.
yeah,
It was
exactly, in the
maybe
50s.
even more songwritery, but
right.
Yeah.
you know, he made it this
it wasn't a
Yeah.
weapon.
Or like
doom.
Shamblin.
Jeff Beck. Oh yeah, Eldon
Eldon
Shamblin.
Shamblin. Like you listen to him play the Strat.
Last thing before we move on to trivia, what is his pedal situation like?
I think at that point he had the wah and he had like an
Fuzz face?
Octavia
Yeah.
and a fuzz face.
Yeah.
Octavia's just doubling an octave below,
It's an octave fuzz.
Yeah, it's an octave,
octave
fuzz.
higher.
octave higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hear it in the solo.
I mean, the cool thing about that pedal too is it was kind of subtle, but because Jimmy was playing like through Marshall stacks, it
Really
was
loud.
Yeah.
so many harmonics happening, and which is also another thing to think about with his playing is like if you've ever stood in front of an amp like that with a guitar, it's like
Yeah, you
not it's a
pass out.
different thing. It's like to have that kind of I don't
What
know,
his hearing
control
must have
and
been like.
confidence.
Yeah.
I know. It's
sure.
probably like sync.
Can you guys speak to, just before we go to trivia, the difference and the contrast in the rhythm sections here?
Totally.
Oh,
So-
big time.
Oh yeah.
This is Billy Cox and Buddy Miles.
Billy Cox was his old army.
Old Army buddy.
Yeah, infantry, I guess they were together. But in my mind, he's a real bassist. You know,
Yeah,
a
totally.
real bassist where he's really laying down the groove. And also a drummer that's
Yeah.
very coming more from an R&B
Yes.
mode. So Mitch and
Mitch was like a
Noel,
jazz
they didn't come
musician,
from
yeah.
they didn't
Right.
come from blues or
Yeah.
So for me, that band Gypsies is so great because finally just a groove
Yeah.
underneath Hendrix,
Yeah.
which to me is so compelling.
Tim, what do you got for us in terms of trivia?
Okay, this one's a little morbid. What was the last song that Jimmy ever played on stage?
Wow. That's heavy.
I think it was Mbop.
It wasn't
Wow.
wasn't Red House, right? It was at Isle of Wight, right? Was that the last concert?
It was Voodoo Child.
Oh, Voodoo Child. Okay,
It was
yeah.
at the Open Air Love and Peace Festival in Germany just a few days before his death. He was met with boos. Some of his final words on stage were the following lyrics: "If I don't meet you no more in this world, then I'll meet you on the next one. And don't be late, because I'm a voodoo child."
Damn.
No, it was booed.
I've got the answer here. He had to postpone his performance due to horrible weather. So I guess that's why they booed him. What a bunch of assholes.
Lyle, before we wrap up, do you want to sign
Walt Simon.
the sound panel of
Wall Simon?
Walt Simon?
The Red Diamond.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Please sign our wall.
Harry, do you
Yeah.
want to score Lyle's signing?
Oh,
Pensive.
there he goes. This is the epic moment.
That was beautiful, man.
Thank you, Lyle.
I would like to recommend a book. I think it's called In His Own Words, where somebody compiled everything that Jimmy ever wrote on the backs of envelopes and napkins and just put them in chronological order. And you get a really strong sense of his voice and who he was. And it's a good read. I recommend it.
We'll end it on there. Thank you so much for joining us in another episode of Professional Musicians React. We do new episodes every week, so feel free to subscribe if you want to see more. Leave us a comment if you have an idea for something that we should listen to next, and we will see you next week. See you later.
Down the street